Every year, Nigerians spend billions of dollars powering their homes, schools, and businesses.
The past 4 days there hadn't been light, and it's been generator. It's frustrating,
Even when we are given light, I'll still spend like 12,000 naira diesel daily.
Owó téèyàn fi ń ra fuel ó ti pọ̀ jù. Àwa ń sìn níbí báyìí lọ́jọ́ kan a máa lo epo tó tó 5,000 naira.
Anyị na-enweta ọkụ mana ọ bụla ọkụ NEPA, ọkụ lista, anyị na-akwụ 200 before, bekata kwụwa 300.
You calculate to 200 naira every day. You ga na almost getting na-enweta na ala to dị na-enye anyị.
With a population of over 180 million people and natural resources spread across the length and breadth of the country, Nigeria has the potential to become one of the world's most industrialized nations. However, this cannot be achieved if the nation's electricity challenges are not addressed.
There's an obvious connection between the amount of power that a country generates and transmits and distributes to the economic development of that country. Without power, you can't develop.
For a country that is as big as Nigeria, 180 million people, and as dynamic as Nigeria, to not have a really strong grid-based electricity sector is a real problem for business people and most importantly for the ordinary citizen.
If you consider the shortfall we have in Nigeria, we have close to 20,000 megawatts. Today, we generate about 4,000. That means that individual generators in this country generate close to 15,000 megawatts. That means bulk of the power we generate in this country comes from generators.
Successive Nigerian governments had wrestled with this challenge, but it took until 2013 before the industry was finally privatized and attempts were made to attract new investors with the capital and technical know-how required to revamp the industry.
If you go back in time to 2010, there was an important policy document called the Roadmap for Power Sector Reform. That document set out a series of proposals. Those proposals included how to make an electricity market work. Included in that plan was the suggestion that a bulk trader be established. So that entity became known as the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company.
Power in Nigeria was obvious, and we thought we could use Azura as a guinea pig in some ways, around which policy could be developed. And the best way to do that is to actually start a business and use that business as a vehicle to test policy and make change happen.
The economic impact of such a power project was obvious, but the projected cost was nearly $900 million, a huge undertaking at a time when the viability of the newly privatized electricity market was still being tested.
You know, when we started the project, we couldn't raise a single dollar of capital for this project. Nobody would give us any money.
A lot of people, a lot of investors and debt holders kept saying Nigeria, they don't pay their bills and that kind of thing. But it took quite a lot convincing everybody to say, no, this is a new Nigeria. We are going to sign this contract and we are going to follow through.
To convince international investors that funding a power project in Nigeria would be profitable for everyone, Azura had to work closely with the federal government to put together a contractual framework that will guarantee the sanctity of contract and revenue predictability.
Previously, you had a vertically integrated industry. Everything was owned by the government. And you're now saying, well, you're going to break that apart, sell parts of it, the distribution sector and the generating sector, to the private sector, and now you can't regulate by fiat, which is how you regulated it before, by government fiat, by government diktat. You have to regulate it now through contract. So the Azura-Edo IPP in that context, as the first large-scale project financed IPP, it inevitably ended up being the guinea pig for this new market, a test of how those contracts would be negotiated and constructed, and then how they would be operationalized as well. Once we had put the contractual framework together, there's no shortage of people willing to lend or invest equity.
After 6 years of development, 15 lenders from 9 different countries closed the financing required to raise all the capital needed to build the Azura-Edo power plant in Benin, Edo State. This would be the first large-scale, privately financed power project in Nigeria.
Azura Power was conceived before this administration was elected, but the financial guarantees that government needed to give were not given until this government came. So it was this administration, the Buhari administration, that signed on to those documents. And as soon as those documents were signed, the Azura Group really went to work.
With contracts and funding in place, the Azura team moved to the site where the mega plant would be built, a 100-hectare piece of land located in Benin, Edo State.
Edo represents perhaps the most efficient location for electricity generation in Nigeria. So you have in Edo State inputs, that is gas required to fire the turbines, and offtake, evacuation, that is the national transmission grid to upload the power. As a government that is very interested in development, that understands the transformational capacity of electricity, we decided to support the developers.
Construction started on 5th January 2016 and was led by a consortium of Julius Berger Nigeria, Nigeria's preeminent construction firm, and Siemens, one of the world's leading global power companies. Julius Berger Nigeria handled the civil scope of the project, while Siemens handled the mechanical scope.
As you know, Julius Berger is a construction company, and we are the civil partner in the consortium together with Siemens. And our job was in principle to place the foundation for the whole project. What we did is we started with bush clearing, site preparation, filling, cutting of the existing level of the plot. We built the fence around the plot. We built the foundations of the power plant, the piles, all the structures, the shed, the building itself. All infrastructure works, which is power lines, water lines, sewage, the roads, concrete roads, gravel roads, various kind of walkways, and of course the buildings, the administration building, workshop building, water treatment plant. Those buildings were constructed by us.
One of the unique features of this project is this huge retention lake over here. So it has a diameter of 180 meters and is 15 meters deep, and is able to collect all the rainwater that's going to fall during the rainy season to be able to prevent bad influences on the outside environment. So the water is collected here, all the sediments, eroded soil is going to settle, and only the, let's say, clear water is going to be flown out through the environment where it can then naturally drain.
This is the exhaust system of the gas turbines. Each of these stacks has a height of 35 meters. They were all constructed here on site. This stack is basically designed for the Siemens 2000E gas turbine, what we have inside the machine house here. Part of the Siemens supply contract was also to erect a HV switchyard, which you see currently behind me. If you see the size of that switchyard, this is our own project in the existing Azura-Edo power plant project, which we assembled here on site in record time and in matter of safety and quality. Including the HV switchyard, we built the 3 overhead towers. What you see behind me as well is number 1, 2, 3, and the Benin North extension, where we currently hooked up to the national Nigerian grid.
During the development phase of the project, a detailed environmental and social impact assessment was conducted in the host communities where the plant would be sited. And before construction began, adequate compensations were made to members of the community whose properties were affected.
This is Orio-Sewende community, one of the 3 communities surrounding the Azura-Edo IPP project. In total, 998 persons were affected. So from farmland owners to structure owners, people with incomplete building, and then those living here. We've paid compensation to World Bank standard to every single individual of them. the stack you're seeing there, the power plant, we're at least some 1,000 meters away from the stack. And the noise level, you have all the cladding soundproofing. So it's totally encased turbine. In terms of air, there'll be almost zero. You see our stacks, even one of them is firing now. You can't see anything coming out from the exhaust stack. And in terms of environment, you can see the trees and everything. We've not taken anything down that we don't need to take down. We're very conscious of our impact and footprints on the environment.
If I'm to use myself as a point of reference, they are coming here has bettered our lives, in the sense that money we were paid gave us a better building compared to what we have. Our community will never remain the same again.
Many members of the communities were also trained and given job opportunities within the work site.
Before I start this work, something is very hard for me. Even to chop is very hard. When Azura come, now I say, okay, make I come join them, they work here. Now I take come. To say the truth, they treat me good. I don't work for 2 construction companies. They don't even pay rich like this, you know. And I make the only thought, say, God go bless Azura, bless the management. So thank you.
By May 2018, the Azura-Edo Independent Power Plant was fully completed, 8 months ahead of schedule and within budget. 3 giant turbines with a total capacity of 461 megawatts had been fully installed and tested, with everything working according to spec.
Well, I've been in the industry a long time, and I have to say this is a shining example of what can be achieved in this country. It's an absolute credit to the management and all the people concerned with the project that we have an absolutely fantastic project here.
We have never done it in Africa, where a plant of this magnitude will come in ahead of schedule. From January 2016, when we started construction, till today, we've done more than 4.5 million man-hours without a single lost time incident. No person has been injured and gone off site in this very site. And it's something we're very proud of.
All 3 turbines now have been synchronized to the grid. So we're going through a series of commissioning tests, and we've submitted invoices for that. And the bulk electricity trader has paid our first invoice. And I have to say that this administration, their commitment to the sanctity of contract has given a lot of confidence to investors.
This is the compressor that squeezes the air down. So we squeeze it. So this is what's powering the grid, what we call the electric grid for the country. This is basically the nerve center. This is where we run things from. The people you see here are our control room operators. They take care of the plant. When we take it over, they're going to own and run the plant. We have a very good qualification program put into place, a very highly qualified staff. I was very impressed with the knowledge level when I showed up.
At the peak of the construction, almost 1,500 men and women worked on this site, and the vast majority of them, over 90%, were Nigerian.
I am happy to be a part of this. I'm so happy. So many people are out there, they can't find this opportunity. I'm happy, I'm going forward. I see myself as being part and parcel of this positive change in Nigeria, and I'm happy to work with them.
Nigerians have an incredible energy, they're incredibly enthusiastic, they're bright, they're willing to work very hard, and you know, as you can see on site, we have many Nigerians. Most of the workers today are Nigerians, and the plant was built by Nigerians. So, you know, if there's any perception out there that Nigeria can't build a world-class facility, people should come to see our plant in Edo State.
Today, the front entrance of the plant contains a plaque that lists the names of each and every one of these workers. Cleaners, carpenters, welders, electrical engineers, warehouse managers, site foremen, and control room operators. These are the men and women who turn the dream into a reality.
I never see this kind of things here. That is why I have the joy. They recognize me, say yes, I'm a hard-working guy for them. That is why I came here to search for my name, and I'm very happy to see my name there.
When we discuss Africa, most of the time we talk about many challenges and problems that relate to us and our continent. But today we are seeing something unheard of, in a sense that this is a Nigerian project, conceptualized, executed by Nigerians. It was delivered ahead of time. It met all specs, all standards. It is still world class, and it is a solution. This is a demonstration of Africa providing solutions to Africa's problems.
The gas that powers the Azura-Edo IPP comes from Seplat through its Oben gas plant. This gas is then transported by the Nigerian gas company through its Escravos Lagos pipeline system to the Azura-Edo IPP, where it is used to power the turbines which produce electricity. This electricity is then transmitted to a high-voltage switchyard located within the Azura power plant. From the switchyard, the transmission company of Nigeria, through the various distribution companies, wheels the power across the national grid. It is estimated that the 461 megawatts that is generated from the Azura-Edo IPP will reach around 12 million Nigerian homes and businesses.
Azura is a valuable customer. When we promised them 5 years ago that we would supply gas when their power plant was ready, they thought we were part of their risk, that when they're ready, we wouldn't have the gas ready. We had gas for them ready 2 years before their plant was ready. And as we speak, if Azura is ready to expand, we will give them the gas they need. That's the relationship we have with Azura. We value them as a customer. They're serious-minded. It was built on international best practices.
For us, the Edo Azura project is quite significant because it tells the world that things can be done properly, things can be done to global standards by locals in Nigeria, particularly in a place like Edo State. And the experience with lenders, from the World Bank to the whole array of bankers and financial institutions who supported, their positive experience has also rubbed off. That today, when we go out to the world stage to talk about our projects, that positive experience of Azura clearly rubs off beneficially on the state.
The Azura Power Project, we're really all very excited about that power project. One, because it is the first fully privately financed power plant in Nigeria, and it is, if you look at the total investment in it, is in the order of about $890 million US. And that's a massive investment coming into the country. And in some senses, first it demonstrates the trust that all the various financial institutions that are participating in this have in the Nigerian economy. So I think this is a very exciting story. I think Azura deserves a great deal of commendation. The promoters of the company deserve a great deal of commendation. And this is a great pride for us as a nation, and we're glad to see what the private sector is doing.
There's something very exciting about what can be done in the future. So rather than look back at what happened in the past, I'm much more focused on what we can do in the future. And I'm convinced that now that the power sector is in private hands, we will have, not tomorrow, not necessarily the day after tomorrow or the year after tomorrow, but at least in my lifetime and my children's lifetime, we will have a really dynamic power sector.
Many things seem impossible until they're done. And I think that's, to me, a really important thing, that you might think and believe things are impossible to achieve. But if you put your mind to it and you work with like-minded partners, you can achieve anything.
This has also shown that we as Nigerians, when we put our mind, proper supervision to do something, that we can do it and do it well.
Energy is the new fuel that drives growth and industrialization. And with companies like Azura replicated across the nation, Nigeria can truly be on her way to becoming one of the world's most industrialized nations.